Alright, we are live, folks. What's going on? Welcome back to another live podcast. Today we got quite a few things to discuss. And before we begin, of course, hit the like button to get us up in the algorithm. Keeps the army growing. Hit the sub button if you are brand new and this is your first time on the stream. And of course, give me a second here. And of course, sorry about that. Think about becoming a member of the channel. There is exclusive content for members only. The prices are not that high. Think about it. You get perks. Probably become mod in streams. You get priorities as far as questions and topics and things of that nature. And you get priority in call-in shows, which we will do in the foreseeable future. So, all right, folks. Let me just let the people know that we are live, and we shall begin. We shall begin. Give me 1 second here. We got plenty of things to discuss here. Give me 1 second. All right. I believe that is in order now. All right. What's going on, Sean? Thanks for coming in. What's going on, Luis? Thanks for coming in as well. Thanks for coming in. We got a lot to discuss here. A lot of questions that were asked pre-live stream. Appreciate you guys for that. Shout out to Sean. He's a 1 month member now. Shout out to you. Thanks for the support, and shout out to all the guys that have become members lately. I will be bringing content that you guys ask, so including my reactions to debates that you guys have asked for soon. So thanks for that. Can't wait for the call-in podcast. Yeah, that should be happening this Saturday. I want to have a co-host with me to help me control all that. And if it goes well, we'll make it maybe a monthly thing or something like that. We'll see how that goes. But all right, let's see what questions we have here. Questions you guys have asked. All right, so first question asked. Sage Kabuto versus Prime Tobirama. All right, that's an interesting one. All right, so this is my take on it. The most important variable to analyze in this matchup is speed, especially considering the ambiguity revolving around Kabuto's and Tobirama's speed. Despite people saying Tobirama was the fastest of Madara's and Hashirama's in his own era, it still leaves ambiguity as far as his speed in comparison to people like Minato, KCM Naruto, right? There's some ambiguity involved. So, Sage Kabuto's most impressive feats as far as speed include blitzing Edo Itachi and then reacting to an attack from Sasuke shortly after. Although you got to keep in mind that they did not have killer intent, meaning it is safe to assume they weren't using their full speed, right? Because if you have killer intent, then you're going all out, maximum effort, which implies higher velocity, right? So, because take into account, speed is distance divided by time, right? Force is mass multiplied by beginning velocity minus final velocity, all divided by the time it takes for that velocity to change, with velocity being a derivative of speed. So hence, the less effort involved, the weaker the attack, right? So they weren't trying to kill Kabuto. They were simply trying to subdue him, incapacitate him, and undo the reanimation jutsu. So I can't give him the full benefit of the doubt for his fight against Edo Itachi and Sasuke because they were lacking killer intent, right? So there's that. So Tobirama's most impressive speed feat is tagging Jubito, right, with explosive paper bombs. I would argue, but to be fair, I would argue Jubito had a gradually increasing mental nerf as time went on because Naruto, making him remind him of his former self, caused him to have doubt in his own conviction, in his own resolve. In fact, I would say he was distracted, gradually more and more distracted as the fight went on until he got Taku no Jutsu. So he wasn't at his optimal level, I'd say, either. But despite that, he's still leagues above Hashirama. He's still leagues above Tobirama and the rest of the Kage. The point is, he's so much above everybody else that his mental nerf does make some difference, but not all the difference in the world. So because of that, I would have to, from an objective lens, consider Tobirama to be faster than Sage Mode Kabuto, because Jubito is vastly superior to Itachi and Sasuke. They're not even on the level of Hashirama and Tobirama or any of those guys yet. Sasuke specifically, he wasn't even close to the level yet. So the only question now is, is the gap in speed between Tobirama and Kabuto vast enough for Tobirama to blitz Kabuto? That's the question, right? Based off the opponents that they faced and based off the asterisks next to both, I would say it's a possibility that Tobirama's speed is vast enough in difference in comparison to Kabuto's. So there's a good chance he could blitz Kabuto. There is a good chance. I mean, if he's able to blitz Jubito, it's only rational to deduce that it's very possible, or induce, it's possible that he would blitz Kabuto worse, to be honest. So in my estimation, Tobirama would deduce Kabuto's hacks, such as being impervious to damage, thanks to his liquefaction ability, which he got from Soigetsu. He can close his eyes and be impervious to Genjutsu. At least that's not auditory, because he's a perfect sage. He can fight blind, similar to Madara. So, with all that in mind, and with Tobirama deducing this, I would say rather quickly, he would probably BFR Kabuto with Flying Raijin. I think he has the speed to do it, and probably send him somewhere where he just dies, or leaves him somewhere stranded. That's probably the best way he would deal with Kabuto. Appreciate it, Sean. All right, let's see. So yeah, basically, Tobirama would use his hacks to deal with Kabuto. Kabuto has too many problems to try to fight him one-on-one, even with a vast gap in speed. So, all right, but that's a good matchup because there is some ambiguity there. Let's continue on though. Someone said KCM Minato versus EMS Madara. I think I would still edge it to Madara, but I can see Minato winning in some scenario if it goes fair in some situations. Alright, so that's the next one I'm going to discuss. So KCM Minato 1 and 2 versus EMS Madara. So let's talk about Edo Minato. If it's Edo Minato, then most likely Minato would win and just simply outlast Madara, since he's impervious to fatigue and impervious to death. Right, so Madara also is not shown or ever shown from my knowledge, ever using any sealing jutsu. So he wouldn't be able to dispose of Minato. He might be able to damage him or whatever, but he's impervious to fatigue and he's impervious to death. So eventually, especially with KCM, he would get overwhelmed. Theoretically, Minato could stay in KCM and just keep spam Biju bombs or whatever the case may be over time. Plus he has Flying Raijin. Right, so that's what would happen if he's in Edo. Now if he's not in Edo and we're talking about hypothetical life KCM Minato, this would be a little different. He clearly, I would say most people would agree, he has a speed advantage. I mean, just think about it. Base Minato was the fastest shinobi on Earth. Was recognized by Tobirama himself to be faster, or at least implied to be faster when they landed on the battlefield. Now, put KCM on top of that. If you presuppose that the amp and speed is similar to that of Naruto's amp and speed, then he would be fucking way faster than Madara. He'd be in a whole different tier, because base Minato alone is comparable to KCM 1 Naruto, as stated by the Red Kage. So if you put KCM and we presuppose the amp is as large, right, as large and significant as Naruto's was when he went from base to KCM, then Minato would be insanely fast. However, I don't tend to presuppose that, right, because that really wasn't displayed. There seemed to be some level of relativity between Naruto and Minato when they were attacking Jubito or Sage Mode Madara, or whatever the case may be. They seemed to be relative somewhat in speed. So I would say he was around the level of speed as Naruto, give or take. Because of that, I would still think Madara would most likely deal with him. I don't think there would be a vast gap in speed so significant that he would blitz Madara and one-shot him or anything like that. Keep in mind, Tobirama was faster than Madara, yet it was always Madara that was considered superior. There's a reason why Hashirama fought Madara and it wasn't Tobirama, despite the speed advantage. It wasn't vast enough. It wasn't significant enough for him to one-shot him or blitz him or threaten his reaction times, anything like that. So I would say Madara most likely wins. The Biju avatar might be a problem with the Biju bombs. That could maybe give Minato a chance. But I just think he would get outlasted, and I think Madara's AP is underrated as well. It's pretty underrated, I would say. So I'll probably give it to Madara, rationally speaking. So, alright, see you guys here. Fire take on the battle, appreciate it, brother. I think it's contentious, but Tobirama's intelligent as hell and definitely fast. Yes, correct. I agree. What are your thoughts on Minato versus Guy? Depends on what versions we're speaking of here. A base Minato probably deals with most versions of Guy until the 8th gate. And I don't think any version of Minato could deal with the 8th gate, including KCM. You need damn near 6 paths powers to deal with that. So I think Minato would be all other version of Guy. Yeah, exactly. What's going on? What's going on, Neo? Thanks for coming in. By the way, guys, hit the like button. It gets us up in the algorithm. Let's try to get this one to 20 plus likes, maybe 25, hell, even 30. Let's get it as hard as we can. Gets us up in the algorithm, keeps the army growing, makes these discussions more fruitful, right? The more people that come in, the more perspectives, the more brains working in conjunction. So hit the like button, folks. All right, let's see here. All right, folks, so that was... Actually, I have one more. So someone asked, well, what would you rank the strongest mythical weapons in your opinion? Sage's 6 paths weapons. I would consider, thinking of all the handful of tools we've seen, thinking about it, I would say the Amber Purification Jar, since it can easily, basically seal anything quite easily. It's probably the most useful tool out of all the 6 paths tools, in my opinion, at least. Did Tate already fight Logan Paul? No. That's something if you guys want to discuss soon after all the anime section, we'll discuss that about Tate and what happened. Yeah, he hasn't fought the Paul brothers. There's nothing about that. There's no official news on that. I wouldn't mind seeing the fight. Be entertaining. And Logan would lose. It would have to be Jake. Jake's the better fighter. Who is the better debater? Seth the Programmer or Pin Pin? Gotta say Pin Pin, man. Pin Pin triumphs. His feats triumph Seth's for sure. Alright. Alright, folks, you got any anime questions to ask? Let's see here. And keep in mind, super chat questions are prioritized. Any donations appreciated. And if you don't want to deal with super chats, become a member, and your questions get prioritized anyway. So we have a few members that have joined recently, so their questions would have priority. Keep that in mind. And there's exclusive member-only content. I'm probably going to react to debates that are more obscure, post them only there, give controversial takes on shit, stuff like that. So, how much stronger would Kakashi be if you had Sage Mode? What would he be able to do? If you had Sage Mode, theoretically... The amp would be vast, right? Because the amps that we do see from Naruto, I guess Naruto's the best example. If he had Sage Mode at the caliber of that of Naruto's, he would probably be able to deal with pain. Theoretically, the only difference is the difference in chakra reserves. But then again, that would be negated by the fact that you could just continuously absorb nature energy. I think he'd be able to deal with pain. He'd be at that caliber. He'd be able to deal with the 6 paths of pain. I don't know if he'd beat them. That's contentious. It seems to be implied that Kakashi and Rasen Shuriken Naruto were somewhat relative. I mean, Kakashi kind of implies that he's starting to surpass him. He could be just being generous or modest, but that implies some level of relativity. So Kakashi would probably be, I would argue, superior to Sage Mode Naruto, not by much. Would have similar success to Naruto against 6 paths of pain, probably a little more. It'd be interesting. So, if we switch Datara with Sasori against Chiyo and Sakura, how would it go? His arsenal would be problematic. He can go airborne. But Sasori was implied to be superior to Datara, meaning Sasori would beat Datara in the event that they were to battle. Datara admitted it himself. I think he would fall to them. Unless he decides to kill himself with a C0 and kill everyone. He could do that. But then you gotta ask yourself, if I'm being objective, he was able to go toe-to-toe with CS2 Sasuke and nearly kill him as well, right? While Sasori had trouble with Chiyo and Sakura. But you could say Sasori was holding back most of the time, was kind of nonchalant, literally gave up in the end, as stated by Chiyo. I would say it's a possibility that Datara could win. It's a possibility. He would have to strategize accordingly, though, to deal with Sakura and to deal with Chiyo's ability. So, it's a possibility. You see the new Dragon Ball movie? No, I actually haven't. Not yet. I have to, though. I basically know what happens, though. The Wanks are crazy. I get it. Gohan needs some respect, but come on. That vast of an increase, similar to Frieza, same thing. It's a vast increase. I get it. He was 10 years in the hyperbolic time chamber, but that's just screaming plot device. That's screaming Deus Ex Machina. That's what it's screaming to me. All right. If we switch Tobirama and Minato and put each of them in each of their situation, would Minato beat the Kinnigan squad and Tobirama take Obito? It's a good question. Minato against 20 S plus rank shinobi, including Kin and Gin. He would have to rely on his speed. Maybe he could BFR them because he's faster than them. Then again, we don't know how that fight went and if Kin and Gin were faster than Tobirama, having Nine-Tails chakra digested at that point. I would say Minato probably would deal with them thanks to his flying rising, his reaction times. Tobirama against Minato, I don't know about that. Tobirama against Obito. He's slower than Minato. He stated that himself. His flying rising, I believe, or whatever he called it exactly, is inferior. So Obito might win that one. New forms of Gohan and Piccolo are officially not canon now. Wow, if that's the case, then bravo. If that's the case, it's crazy. Frieza, Black Frieza, crazy. All right, folks, feel free to ask any questions here. All right, let's see here. All right, I'll start answering some IRL questions since there's quite a few of them that people asked this time for IRL questions. Feel free to keep asking anime questions. If you're super chat or a member, I'll stop what I'm doing here and I'll answer yours first. Let's see here. What do you think of Saitama now in terms of scaling? Let's discuss that one. So, Saitama was recently shown when punching the new villain that he faced with a serious punch. He was shown destroying anywhere from many stars to many galaxies, right? A cluster of the universe. Even that's an overstatement. I would say from that you can only extrapolate him being, at best, multi-galaxy level. At best. That's if you presuppose that those things that disappeared from the universe were galaxies, right? That's the best that you could put him at. And it's heavily implied, at least from what I've seen, reliable sources say that he was being serious, right? I don't think the author would show, a portion of the universe being destroyed for the sake of laughter. That's not something people will laugh at, right? It was pretty serious to me. So he still lacks the empirical feats to suggest that he would be anywhere near the level of current Goku. Anywhere even near, remotely close to Goku. Even Boo Saga Goku. Even Boo, right? Boo, as Seth said in the video reacted to, with a simple scream, he was simply flexing, was ripping the fabric of the universe in its entirety on a universal scale. And that's him just screaming and flexing. That's it. So that enough should illuminate the vast difference in strength and ability. So Goku would fucking wreck Saitama. It's heavily likely. He would destroy him. It's not even close. It's not even a debate, to be honest. You'd have to use a lot of speculation, a lot of headcanon, interpret things a certain way that I would consider disingenuous. So, did you get my live questions on Discord? Yep. Sure did, Luis. Appreciate it. All right, so I'll start answering some of these folks. And again, super chats or members will get me to stop and answer anime questions. So. All right, folks. First question. What's the biggest thing that is hurting men these days? That's a good question. I would say the biggest things, on a universal scale, or I guess a global scale, I should say, in general, would probably be, honestly, probably porn, and probably just self-doubt, self-pity. I think those are the two biggest things. Pornography desensitizes you, right? It's shown to give some issues, even physical ones. It distorts your perception of what clapping chicks really is, right? Porn is it's a fantasy. That's the whole point of it. It's the whole premise behind it. It's definitely not the best. You should definitely avoid it as much as you can. I mean, to each their own, but in my opinion, it's detrimental. There's no benefit besides immediate gratification. And as far as self-pity and self-doubt, you got to just surround yourself with people that that push you, brutally honest. Even if it does hurt you immediately, in the long run, it will benefit you. So, all right. So those two things are probably the biggest thing hurting men right now, for sure. Kid Goku versus Saitama is a better versus gag battle. I agree. That is a better one. Exactly. All right, let's continue on with the questions. Next question asked was, you into photography? Not really. Favorite J. Cole album? Forest Hills Drive. Easy. That's a W. Let's see here. Feel free to keep asking questions, folks. Low self-esteem. Yep, I agree. Definitely. First Drake song I ever heard? I was a kid when I first heard Drake. Probably Forever, when he collabed with Kanye, Eminem, and Lil Wayne. Probably that's the first song I remember listening to. That's a W. No new chapter of Dragon Ball Super next month. Unfortunately, I actually need to read the new chapter of Boruto soon as well. Maybe I'll do that in the call-in show or something. I need to read the new chapter of Boruto. I haven't got a chance. All right. Do you believe in multi-universes and third eye shit? For my eye, and obviously I can only speak from a subjective lens, it seems even in the scientific world, the upper echelon of scientists, there's a lot of unknown variables in our universe. Right? How many dimensions are there? There are theories. How many dimensions are there theoretically? Where do we come from? That's been the debate since the beginning of human history. There's many aspects that are still unknown. So to rule out the possibility of there being other universes, I wouldn't say would be good. Right? I would say that's probably not a good thing because we don't know. Black holes, like what's on the other side, right? That's another question. I think scientists haven't answered yet. Despite our ever-evolving minds and technological innovations, we're still at a point where the universe is relatively unknown, right? There's a lot of unknown variables, things that our eye can't see, things that even our technology can't see yet. There's more than meets the eye for sure. So I would say, yeah, it's possible, right? Read it now. I'll read it now if someone super chats. I'll read it now because I know that would stop the flow of the show. So I'll do it for. Let's see, how long is it? I'll be generous. So 15. I'll do it right now. Crazy that everyone's Xenoverse character one-shot super. Yeah, Xenoverse is broken, for sure. Definitely different from the canonical literature, I'd say that. Alright, so the next few questions here. Is it weird to not want a certain person anymore? Not want the relationship at times, remember certain moments. Is that nostalgia? Is it weird to not want a certain person anymore? I think it's inevitable that there are going to be moments where you don't want your partner. It's inevitable as a human being, especially as a man, where men want variation of women. It's just a biological truth. So I would say it's not weird, and nostalgia definitely isn't weird, especially after a breakup or something like that. You gotta look past that though. It only limits you to waste of time, to look back on the past. You should only extract lessons from the past. That's all. That's all that you should use the past for. Learn your lessons from the mistakes the mistakes you've made, right? So insecurity about man's package. That's true. That is definitely true. Yeah. It deviates from the realistic length. Thoughts on the DBZ superhero movie? I'll say this about, I haven't seen it, but I know basically what happens. I think, especially the Piccolo amp and power was definitely a stretch. I mean, he goes from not being close to Goku to surpassing him and Vegeta. It's insane. Gohan as well. I just think it was a fan service, you know? It's a fan service, to be honest. I kind of think the Black Frieza thing was a fan service as well. In fact, it's a more far-fetched fan service, because I don't think many people were kind of advocating for Frieza to pass up Goku and Vegeta like that. Gohan, I get it. Gohan is admired quite a bit, and a lot of people were disappointed that he peaked during the Cell Saga, right? And ever since then, he's just been on the side. A side piece, basically. A side piece. Vegito versus Gogeta, no time limit on fusion. That's one of the oldest questions in the book. Vegito versus Gogeta. Well, Gogeta has more impressive feats, as far as I know, currently. So I would say Gogeta. The pan stuff is probably the best parts of the movie. Yeah, if we're sticking to DBZ, yeah, Vegito, I agree. So. Alright, let's see here. Continue on. What other questions were asked here? Alright, so what was that? Thoughts on CBD? It's beneficial, I'd say. It definitely relieves, I think, a lot of inflammation in your body, as far as what I've seen, like from medical articles and stuff like that. Some people even give it to their kids if they have like seizures and stuff like that. It's beneficial for sure. Now, as far as the THC, it's a little different. All right, favorite car brand? Favorite car brand? That's a good question. Maybe Porsche. Those are nice. They're not super flashy, and they're nice. Not, at least not compared to like a Lambo or a Ferrari. Those are more flashy, I'd say. Alright, let's see here. If you could be any animal for a week, what would it be? Probably... What animal would I be? A cheetah? I feel that kind of speed. Let's say, you think men are dating less because they're living with their parents longer due to economics, gas prices, and feeling embarrassed about it. Yeah, it's absolutely a very significant variable as to why men are dating less. Definitely. In a world where inflation seems to be increasing vastly, that's only going to continue to expand. Men have more hill to climb, I guess you could say, right? Social media puts them at a disadvantage in general. Women display their primary commodity in the sexual dating market, which is beauty, right? That doesn't mean they're intrinsically useless in every, right? That doesn't mean that. I mean, it's strictly speaking sexual marketplace and the dating marketplace. The beauty is the number one commodity, at least to get their foot in the door with a man. Social media makes it so much easier. Post a picture on IG. You're a decent looking woman. You got 50 to hundreds to maybe thousands of men DMing you. Men, beauty's not their primary commodity, clearly. It's social status, social proof, stuff like that. So yeah, they're definitely at a disadvantage. All that plays a role, for sure. So most definitely, and yeah, you're right. They do feel embarrassed about it. You're right about that. They don't want to let the girl know, hey, I'm 26. I'm living with my parents. They don't want to tell something like that. They're embarrassed. So definitely, they're not willing to take a risk. All right. What things really be good if Minato did not die? I think Naruto would be more spoiled, most definitely. He'd be more spoiled, be a spoiled brat, similar to Boruto. So, best places to meet new people. Postgraduates do the full-time job in their desired field. Live on my best places to meet new people. If you mean women, let's talk women first. I would say places where socializing is emphasized. I don't know if the club would be the right place. Club is if you want recreational use, right? Mostly. You're not gonna. It's very unlikely you meet a wife at the club, right? The whole premise of a club is to get with a rich guy and use his resources in exchange for box. That's what the club's for, to be honest, right? The top tier guys have tables, they have booths. All the women go to them. The regular guys are in the middle, trying to grasp for whatever's left over. So that's the club. I wouldn't say the club. Maybe, let's see, I wouldn't say a library. Maybe the beach, the mall. You know, if you're cold approaching women, of course. The beach, the mall, at a fair or some shit, you know, something like that where they're already in a good mood. I wouldn't say the gym. I mean, if she's looking at you and you could tell, and you have that awareness, maybe, or like places like the library, the gym, even the store, not as good as a mall or a beach or something like that, where socializing is encouraged. I'll say that. Now, if you meet people in general, you meet like guys that will be in the same level, the gym, you know, guys that will push you, the gym. What else? Maybe if you're in a combat sports gym, a boxing gym, something like that. Guys that have their shit together, you know, that's where most of them would be. Who is more intelligent, Tobirama or Madara? Well, Tobirama is the founder of many of the most useful jutsu in the entire Naruto fandom, so I might lean towards Tobirama. Right, Madara is just simply stronger, and intelligent himself, but I'll lean towards Tobirama. Entire head color, their eyebrows colored, and a semicolon tattoo and a girl, a red flag. Shit, if their eyebrows are colored, that's fucking weird. Yeah, I would mess with that personally. Alright. What would Itachi think of Goku? He would think of him. Right. Well, first we gotta ask, would he be able to sense ki? We don't know that. That's ambiguous. If he could, he would look at him as a fucking god. Obviously, he's way superior to anyone in the Naruto verse. He would be a god amongst boys if they could sense his ki. If not, they might think of him as a dumbass guy that just wants to fight, and then they would find out real quickly that he's not some dumbass. He's a fucking god. So that's what would happen. Who is smarter, Shikamaru or Shikaku? Shikamaru or Shikaku? I kind of lean towards Shikamaru. He has more feats, empirically speaking, as well, against some pretty powerful opponents as well. Shikaku, you know, he was the leading brain in the war arc, but he was outsmarted by Madara. You can also counter and say, well, he just had access to 10-tail BG bombs, so it doesn't mean he's smarter. That's a fair counter, but point is, he didn't take that into consideration. So Madara, you could argue, outsmarted him in some way. So, what if Light had the Gyas instead of the Death Note? I'm not really familiar with the Gyas, I couldn't answer that. Have you ever watched Gravity? No, but I've heard of it. I've heard of that. Alright, so the next question. How far do you think Sarada will go? How far do I think she will go? I think it's going to be the case where she surpasses her father, Sasuke, one day. I tend to predict that she might take his eyes, and I think he might voluntarily give her his eyes. I think that would kind of pay respects to what Shisui did with Itachi, giving him his eye. I think that's a pretty fair way of how she could get vastly more powerful. So I think that's a possibility. And who knows with the world of Boruto, what else they'll do to her as far as amping her power. So it's a good question, though. She'll be up there. Would you rather make anime or manga for a living? It's a good question. I'm more of a visual guy. I like animation more. I'd say anime. What do you consider emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is when you're able to deduce someone's intentions based off several variables, right? So to tell someone's intentions, it's a multivariate equation. Obviously, their body language, their tone, the words that they speak, all those things play a role. And if you're able to deduce what their intentions most likely are, then you have it. Some people are naive, especially I would say young people and old people, right? Those are probably the most naive because they're more ignorant at that point. Their brain, old people get to a point where they're more senile. Young people that are very young are just ignorant to the world. So Minato versus the top 3 in the Akatsuki in a 1v1. Who does he beat and who beats him? Non-Sekitachi included. Top 3, so Obito, Pain, and Itachi. So Itachi versus Minato, Prime Itachi versus Minato. There's an argument that he would be faster, right? He did keep up with KCM and Naruto. However, some people think that Naruto was depleted at that point. spamming clones to help throughout the war within the Shinobi Alliance. That's a fair argument. However, there's arguments for both sides. There's arguments for both sides. I would argue Itachi, if the speed, right, is relative enough or he is superior, he would win via Genjutsu most likely, especially if he uses Tsukuyomi. So there's that. However, if we presuppose Minato's speed is superior, then he would simply blitz Itachi or eventually catch him once he puts a mark on him to use a Flying Rising. So there's that. As far as Pain versus Minato, Pain is slower than Itachi, at least from what we've seen them as Edos do. I think Minato would most likely win that one as well. I think he probably beats, one-on-one probably beats any one of them. I'd say that. Unless we're talking about Jubito, of course, or White Mask Obito. I think those versions would beat Minato most likely. So it all comes down to speed, to be honest. Why didn't Naruto inherit any of his parents' abilities? That's interesting. Most likely because he didn't really need to learn them. I'm sure if Minato was around, he probably would have taught him how to use a Flying Rising. I don't know if that's a genetic thing or what, but there's probably a big reason why. Is that they died. He never got a chance to be exposed to them. Alright, folks. Let's see what other questions you have here. Have you seen that new Second Hokage video? Not yet. I gotta react to that one. The Rock Lee, I think it was Rock Lee video. Yeah, I gotta react to that one soon, for sure. Alright, let's see here. See if any more questions have been asked. If you could live in any anime world, which one would you pick? Probably the one with the most bliss. Maybe like definitely not Dragon Ball, where there's universal threats everywhere. So fuck that. Zeno is a child and he has the potential of erasing the whole multiverse. So fuck that too. Naruto versus a war-torn shinobi hellhole. No thanks. What other worlds are there? Maybe Death Note. I mean, I'm not a criminal, so I should be fine. It'd be cool to witness that, I guess, in some weird way. Do you think Susanoo increases speed when it reaches a certain level? I think rationally you can deduce that, right? Because Naruto and Sasuke going all out are in their avatars, right? So you could deduce that their speed would increase as well. So yeah, I would say yes, most likely it does. Most likely. Alright, so IRL question. What do you think women have to offer outside of their physical attraction? A good woman will be supportive, nurturing, loyal, cooperative. It's probably the biggest traits that you should look for sure. Because Sasuke seems way faster when he reaches the Lex Susanoo. Madara armor Susanoo seems very quick as well. Yeah, I think it's implied. That's them going all out. It's not definitive, but it seems implied. Let's see here. Feel free to ask any questions, folks. As controversial as you want, for sure. Let's see here. Alright, so I'll read the next IRL question. What is considered a mature male? One that lives in reality, right? That realizes his strengths and weaknesses. That comes over time through experience. That builds character. How come some people never grow up? I think they're stuck in their own subjective ideology. You know, they're not willing to change. A lot of people are stubborn, man. They don't want to change their ideology. And it's also an ego thing as well. People's egos are too big. It results in them never evolving. You know, that's probably why most people don't grow up. To be honest. Do you think Tate can beat Jake Paul? Yes, I do. He was a world-class caliber combat sports athlete. However, to be fair, he never fought in the upper echelons of kickboxing organizations. He never fought to my knowledge, he never fought in Pride. He never fought in Glory. So he never fought in, what's the other one called? Glory, Pride. There was one more organization. He's never fought that level, at least to my knowledge. So he's not the tip of the tip of the spear. He's not like Israel Adesanya or Alex Pereira level, but he's still world class. Won a world champion in some organization. That's respectable. So I would say there's a good chance he beats Jake. Yeah, unless he fell off a cliff, athletically speaking, then maybe Jake would beat him. Let's see here. Is it okay to never speak to a person who you were romantically with in the past due to toxic red flag? Hell yeah, it is. I mean, that should be your goal. They cheat on you. They're for the streets. They are for the streets. They're gone. They don't exist no more. Right? They don't exist to you no more. If a bitch cheats on you, it's over. Fuck that. You're gone. That's the way it should be. Harder said than done, but that's the way it should be. You got to dig out that fear that you have. You got to dig out your fear, dig out your weakness, and obliterate it. Move on with your life. And take that bad time as a lesson. That's what you should do. What's going on, Dragkage? We're just discussing some anime and some IRL shit as well. Do you agree that it's hypocritical that women will take on masculine roles like making the most money, civil career, but refuse men to take feminine? Yes, hell yes, it's hypocritical. The most hypocritical. The biggest double standard in our modern society. Women want to be boss bitches. They want to talk like men, compete like men, against men, challenge men. Yet when a guy cries, shows vulnerability, shows a moment of weakness, they're bitches. They're demonized and villainized as weak men. Yeah, we're supposed to praise aggressive, nasty women. That's a huge double standard. That's a definition of hypocrite. It definitely is. I believe in the roles of men and women. Is it bad if you're a competitive boss bitch? That's fine. But the reality is you're most likely not going to attract a top-tier man or a man that respects himself. You're not going to attract that because you have masculine features. And a guy wants feminine features and vice versa. So I definitely agree. Tate is that decent? Yeah. I think he's had tens of matches. I think he's had over 50 fights. So he has a ton of experience. Ton. And I've seen him engage in battle. Very technically sound. Very technically efficient. Has decent power as well. He'd be a problem for sure. Hello. Oh, yeah, I just read that. Is it weak to change your ideology? No, it's not. I think everyone, no matter how successful, should have an open mind. Now, that doesn't mean automatically 180 in your conviction, right? Whatever your ideology is. But be open to other perspectives. To be honest, not to get political or, anything like that. But humans are instinctually tribal. And what does that mean? That means that they choose groups that they want to coincide with and cooperate with and live in harmony with. And anyone not in that tribe is demonized, villainized, looked at as the enemy, right? Look at politics, for example. That is the definition of tribalism, right? It's political tribalism, the right versus the left. When in reality, the goal at the end is for the best results from an objective standpoint. That's what the goal should be. From an economic standpoint, from a social standpoint, that should be the goal, right? And instead, people argue over the subtleties, right? The abstract concepts that are more, I would argue, debatable, to be fair, like death penalty, other shit like that. But it's because of tribalism. Despite there being a person who maybe beats another person logically, they're not going to concede because of tribalism, because of ego. So it's not weak to change your ideology in certain situations. It's not. Especially if you're objectively wrong about something pertaining to your ideology. In fact, it'd be weak not to change it in that case because you're being disingenuous. You're being illogical. You're being a fallacious being. So I would say definitely not. Now, if a guy's threatening to do something to you and say, you got to believe this, then that's kind of weak. It depends on the situation. Kimimaru versus Prime Haku. Sick. Alright, Kimimaru's sick versus Prime Haku. It's a good question. I lean towards Kimimaru still. I think at that point, everyone's caliber went up a couple notches. Modern feminism isn't what original feminism was about. Originally, women wanted the option to choose. Agreed. It's been distorted and manipulated, for sure. Thoughts on, but then more and more complain about the patriarchy when it doesn't suit them. Exactly. What they want is equality, right? They say they want equality, but in reality, they want advantages, right? They want no disadvantages, but equality inevitably creates disadvantages for all sides, because there is no such thing as perfect equal outcome, right? The best it can do is equal opportunity. There will never be equal outcome, at least not in a government that has any sense of logic, right? Like a communist state or socialist state, they fall apart because humans aren't built to live in perfect harmony where everything is equally distributed despite your merit and despite your productivity, right? Hyperproductive males would cease to exist, right? If things were perfectly equal, hyperproductivity would be lowered. I think all standards would lower because there is no incentive for improvement. There is no incentive. So this whole patriarchy bullshit, it's a ridiculous argument that a lot of feminists use, for sure. The patriarchy. You do realize that the patriarchy is the reason why you have rights now? Women didn't want the right to vote. They didn't want the rights because they didn't want to have to sign up for selective service. But guess what? You still don't have to. And you got the right to vote. And you're still complaining about the patriarchy. It's really fucking stupid, to be honest. Thoughts on astrology? If you mean like all those signs, like I'm a Virgo, that shit's fucking stupid. The dumbest shit I've ever heard. And then people use that as justification for their flaws. Oh, sorry that I'm an asshole. I'm a Virgo. Like, I don't give a fuck what you are. That's the dumbest shit ever. Astrology's fucking stupid. If that's what you mean. Do you believe in God? I do believe that there's a divine creator. Due to how much is unknown, due to the coincidental perfect placements of many things, and due to the hierarchical structure of everything. From us, right? We go from cells to tissue to organs to our own structure, skeletal structure, up until the very human. Everything's hierarchical. Everything's set up a certain way for it to work optimally. The food chain, apex predators at the top, the weakest at the bottom. It's all built seemingly very strategically. Obviously, that's headcanon, but I think that's a rational argument for the idea of a divine creator. Is it the God that is perceived by the Judeo-Christian Bible or the Islamic literature or whatever other religion? I don't know, but there's something there. My opinion. Some people are atheists and believe that we really are here, but just based off coincidence. Each their own, I suppose. Do you notice that Naruto never tries talk no jutsu against Madara to change his ideology? Yeah, it's because Madara has an unshakable conviction. That's why Madara was a more polarizing villain than, say, Obito, because he didn't lack conviction. He had strong resolve. He was a truly strongly believing man. That's why he never broke. You had to beat him physically. You had to beat him down. You couldn't break down his mind, not like Obito or even Pain, who had doubts. So I would say, yeah, that's a big reason why Madara is respected. Do you believe we meet people for a reason? As far as that is concerned, when you believe something happens for a reason, right, you're kind of presupposing that our paths are pre-established, right? So it depends on your presupposition. Mine is that you can pave your own way. That's what I think. You pave your own path. If you're a loser who self-pities yourself, you're going to be a loser. If you're a guy that works hard hour after hour, day after day, you're going to be a winner. And why you're a winner? Because of that very reason. Now, there's such thing as luck. Luck exists as well. But I think maybe we should tell ourselves some things happen for a reason to kind of cope with things. But I think you pave your own way. I think we all have free will. I don't think we're constricted to certain parameters of some divine creator. If anything, I believe most mainstream religions, whatever you want to consider that, consider us to have free will, right? I believe that we all have free will, to be honest. To a certain extent. All right, to a certain extent. Haku would have the advantage in assassination. Sure, if Kimura has the advantage. I agree. The situation would matter. How do you remain detached from women despite having sex with them? As a man, it's much easier than a woman, because for women, sex is inevitably emotional, right? Even the biological anatomy of a woman implies the high value sex is for women. They can only have one kid per year, right? 9 months they have to carry a child on average. They can only do it once per year. You know, there is a time clock on their on their body as far as kids are concerned, so the stakes are much higher. So I think that kind of builds a foundation for the notion that sex is much more valuable for women. Now, for men, they can bust nuts every day, several times a day, for years until the day they die, right? So it's much less risky, right? High reward, low risk. And for the woman, probably the opposite. So the way you detach yourself is just do what you have to do. Now, you don't want to do that with a girl you actually like, right? Be fair. But then you gotta look at her from a different perspective. So if you have a side piece, she's only for, you know, the occasional recreational use, I guess you could say. Then of course detach yourself. The way you do that is just don't overinvest your time. Don't overinvest how you feel about things. Just kind of do things and go with the flow. So that's the best way I would say. Thanks, Wika, for the 99 cents. Appreciate it, brother. Appreciate it. Personally, I'm more of an atheist. I believe the universe wasn't created. I think it was just there. Got around to believing, as history tells us, whatever we don't understand, we relate it to a higher. That's a fair argument, right? That's a fair argument. That's a respectable view. And you're right. When people can't understand something, they do tend to relate it to a higher being or a higher power doing it. I agree with that. That's true. That is true. And that's an appeal to, you could argue that's an appeal to ignorance, right? That's fair. I agree. Watch your videos every night, bro. We're donating more. Hey, any donations appreciated, brother. Thanks for watching. Appreciate the support. Much appreciated for the donation. Thoughts on Sneko, if you know who that is. Oh, I do know who that is. Definitely. I'm a fan. I admire his work. I admire his conviction. And I think he's giving a good message. Yeah, he uses some satire like Tate did, right? Like Andrew Tate, who I'm about to discuss here. But he gives a good message, right? He relays a good message. And he's young. He's around my age. Slightly older than me. And he's doing his thing. It's very respectable. He's been on some other platforms. I've seen him debate. He's open-minded. He's not closed-minded and egotistical. He's willing to concede. But he has a solid mind. So I'll say that. Let's see here. Alright, so you guys ask more questions. Will monkeys ever evolve to have similar sentience as humans? It's a good question. Will they ever evolve? I guess that's kind of a hard question to answer. It depends on your presupposition of evolution. Do you think we originated from primates? Do you think that we originated all the way from lizards or whatever the case may be? I would say they will evolve. Do I ever think they'll get to the level of a human? In my subjective opinion, I'd say probably not. Probably not. Okay. Of course, there's no way to tell, but yeah. Let's see. Do exes ever truly forget you? Like we don't have the Men in Black technology to forget people we don't know. They never forget, especially if you're the best they've had. If they fucked up. But you do get eventually. Once a woman finds someone she admires and respects, you'll go into the back nine of her mind, right? You'll be in the back, and that's the worst time to try to hit your. You should never hit up your ex, but that's the worst time. So, no, they never forget, but eventually become a distant memory. So it happens. Did you see Warner Brothers and HBO? Oh yes, I did. They're down like $3 billion. Yep, agreed. Yep, interesting move. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Hopefully by then I'm quite established, and as far as social media as a content creator, expand on my field of expertise. Well, I'm always gonna stick to anime, but there's also IRL topics that interest me, and I believe I have a lot to say. Think I have a good message. Maybe I'll do something else in the future and add that on top of what I already do, which I kind of am already with these streams, right? With the IRL topics, these abstract concepts that go beyond anime. So, how far do you think Sourdough will go? I already answered that, but I answered again. She's probably going to surpass her father eventually. Her father in terms of caliber. She's going to be up there. Hopefully they do her justice, unlike Sakura, who's trash. Have you ever seen Full Metal Alchemist before? No, I have not, but that's another one on my bucket list. What do you think will happen first, World War III or another civil war? I think the probability of World War III is extremely unlikely unless you have a incredibly incompetent leader in any such said superpower of a country, right? If you have a dumbass in the US or Russia or China, then it could be possible. But I think a civil war would be more likely, where there is a class of ideology due to an event that's so significant that there's civil war. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical confrontation. In fact, you could argue the civil war going on now in many Western parts of the world, modern parts of the world, right? It's more verbal, and it's more so on the internet, but you could label that as civil war, right? The difference in ideology. Look at Andrew Tate, his side versus the side of the feminists, or whatever the fuck the other side is. That's a civil war in itself. So let's see. What equipment do you use for your vid streams? So I use this. What's it called? The Yeti. I think this is what these are called. Yeti mics. I use a fairly high powered laptop with a decent processor and a decent webcam. I forgot the brand. I think it's Nexigo. They have solid cameras for decent prices as well. So, all right, folks. I can greatly say I moved on from her in the relationship, but I do have moments of her. Yeah, that just dies off. That will die off as you progress in life, become more and more successful, meet other women. That'll die off. You know. Now, if a guy's a loser and that's all he had in his life, in his fucking life, was that female, it's gonna be much, much more difficult. If you don't have a passion, you don't have any drive or ambition, and that girl's the only bitch you think about, the only thing you think about, it's gonna be much more difficult. Imagine emotions did not exist. How do you think men and women would be like? Would be animals. Would be fucking gorillas or lions, where mating is simply a systematic and mechanical act. There's no emotions behind it. It's just a systematic event to keep the population afloat, just like how animals do it. So, do you think Andrew Tate will make a Patreon? From what I saw his final message. He put it on Vimeo, I believe. I watched it in its entirety. So let's get into Andrew Tate, actually. So make sure to hit the sub button before we begin this. I definitely want to get my take on everything that transpired and the huge differences in opinions that I've seen on all platforms of social media. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and also think about becoming a member. I go into IRL topics more in depth. We have a couple members, a couple that have already been a member for over some time, so shout out to them. Think about that. But Andrew Tate was banned from social media. I believe even his YouTube was banned, which is very unfortunate. Now, the argument is private companies have the right to do whatever they want. Correct. They do. But just because you have the right to do whatever you want, does that make every act that you commit a morally righteous one? No, it doesn't. Instagram and Facebook have monopolized the internet. They have a monopoly within the internet itself. They have monopolized social media. They probably have over billions of users, right? And the only reason that Andrew Tate was banned, right, at least from my knowledge, was for him being a dangerous figure. That is extremely ambiguous. I would love to see a well-written justification for it, with sound logic, not appeal to emotion, jargon, bullshit. That's not what I want to see. He was banned simply for disagreements, simply for a different ideology that's not well received by the woke society. It's the reason why. That's tyrannical, to be honest. Does a private company have the right to do that? Yes. Should they have the right to do that? I'm going to be honest. Yes, they should. They're a private company. They have the right to run their company however they want. But they are violating freedom of speech. They have the right to do it, but they're violating it either way. Doesn't negate the fact that what they did was tyrannical. It was tyrannical, definitely. So I think it was morally unjustified to do what they did. Now, Andrew Tate took some accountability. He took some accountability and he did admit his flaws, and I commend him for that. He comes off the wrong way a lot of the times. A lot of it, I would argue, is satire when he's talking shit about women or whatever. It's satire for comedic purposes, but he got big to such a scale, such a global scale that everything and anything he said was looked at under a microscope from all eyes around the globe. And that's what happened. It's unfortunate. I disagree with it. Doesn't mean I think they shouldn't have the right to do it. It's their company. They run it the way they want it. It's still tyrannical to me. So still tyrannical. And I think that it's a shame. I hope that this doesn't become a thing, you know. Let's see. Live, Casey Minato should be able to defeat live. Miss Madara, both 10 out of 10 say I think Madara should win because of his Renegon. Fair take. Fair take. Alright. Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson. Who was the better fighter in their prime? If we look at it empirically, Ali has more accolades, right? He has more accolades. Mike Tyson is probably more physically gifted than Ali. Probably the most, you can argue, the most physically gifted boxer we've ever seen. I would say him and Roy Jones Jr. probably. And as far as them fighting, there's an argument for Tyson. Ali has a weakness that I pointed out in a debate I had. It's on this channel where we debated this very thing, and I debated for Tyson. Ali leaves one side vulnerable. I'm not exactly sure which side if you watch his fights, but Mike Tyson would exploit that, being a very good inside boxer. He could fight in a phone booth very well, and I would argue probably better than Ali. Ali is a long-range fighter, right? So if Tyson can get inside, if he can wiggle his way in there, it'll be a tough night for Ali, excuse me. I think it would be very competitive, though. But I would side with Tyson in his prime, in his very prime. Arguably, he never reached his prime, you could argue. After Customato died, his coach, but yeah. Would you make a group chat for people that text you privately or nah? Actually, if you become a member, there is a private Discord that I made. So, and I'm gonna send it to the members soon. To all members, you can join the Discord. It's a private one; only members could join. So, what cultures or heritage do you revere and respect in terms of ideology, philosophical standpoints, etc.? So, cultures and ideologies. It's a good question. I think if we go back, several hundred years, maybe the Roman to a certain extent, they kind of were the pioneers of, a modern society to some extent. Obviously not technologically speaking compared to now, but they were the pioneers for that. The Greeks as well, they were pioneers in battle strategy. Obviously that doesn't really conform to now because we have weapons that negate all that, but I respect them. As far as philosophies and ideologies, I respect all of the major ones, I'd say, even the ones that were problematic, because that led up to this one, the one that we're in now in modern society. Those were all lessons that modern humans have learned, right? So I can't really put my finger on certain ones, but the mainstream ones that we know of, the Roman, the Greeks, and also Islamic civilization, the Catholics, all those, it's what set the way and paved the path for modern society. So empirical simply means like it's tangible, right? Like, for example, prove that women get more attention than men. Well, there is a statistic that shows that the average woman gets almost more attention than the top tier male. That's empirical evidence, right? So there's a difference between rational and empirical. Rational is you're using induction, right? You're using induction based off what you do now. Empirical is hard-based quantitative or qualitative data, right? Like 1 in 10 people, whatever. That's empirical, right? So calling, texting, I agree. Six Gate War, Lee versus Old Man Hiruzen. I tend to lean towards Hiruzen, even though Rock Lee technically cut Rock Lee cut Madara in half with his taijutsu. That's a revered feat, and I wouldn't say he beats Hiruzen just because of that, to be honest. Calling, texting. Hey, how antisocial we've become. I agree. Inevitably, we have. Humans want convenience. Humans want to feel comfortable. And what's the most comfortable thing to do? Talk to a bitch online and not have to meet her in person. Watch porn so you don't have to go cold approaching women. Like, it's called convenience. So yeah, because of that, we are more antisocial. Are we really free? It's a good question. In some aspects, we're not. Some aspects, we are. Aspects that we are do have freedom in is freedom. We have the equal opportunity to a certain extent. We have the ability to rise our way in the power hierarchy of our society, things of that nature. Now, how we are not free is, in a way, internet is addicting to everyone, damn near everyone. So in that way, we're kind of not free. We're bound by it to some extent. Let's see what feel free to keep asking questions, folks. Anything and everything. We've been pretty controversial lately, so I don't mind controversial questions. Would you rather work for Apple or Google? Probably Google. Thoughts on remote work. Hey, if you're doing your thing, making bag remotely, fuck it. Whatever you want to do. All right, see here. What are some things you would ask Drake? I would ask him, how does he deal with the pressure? Because when you're the top artist in the world for a decade plus, there's pressure inevitably. I would ask him, how does he deal with that? How does he deal with women in general? A lot of things I'd ask him. What's his routine like? How does he cope with, again, the pressure and the stress? Stuff like that. Vikings are kind of dope. Yes, they are. Let's see. How are men supposed to find women in today's culture organically when online media has given them so many options and spoiled it? That's a good question. Improving yourself. Becoming a more appealing option. The more appealing you become, the more attention that you will receive, right? So improve yourself, right? Don't blame the system, just beat it. That's the best way to do it. Improve your finances, get in shape, get confidence, and they'll come to you. So, all right, folks, feel free to keep asking questions here. Let's see here. Someone asked pre-live stream, do you think racism will ever end? And the unfortunate reality is that in an imperfect world, there will always be malevolence. It's inevitable to not deal with malevolence to some extent. Now, malevolence has been lowered over the last few hundred years, right? And in terms of racism, of course, slavery came to an end, rightfully so. But there will always be some racism sprinkled in even the most righteous of societies, right? Such as the U.S. There's always going to be some bad apple dickwad that's a racist, and that's inevitable. But I think it will continue to improve till it reaches a certain threshold. And as far as it ever ending, I don't think malevolence in general will ever end, to be honest. Never. The pandemic also made it worse. Absolutely. Don't rush into relationships you have your whole life. Honestly, women are just a byproduct. They shouldn't be in your mind right now. Self-improvement should be on your mind. Women come with the territory. So, nature versus nurture. There has to be a balance. When you're young, you're a little kid, you need nurturing. All right, you need to feel loved and stuff like that. As you get older, you got to start shifting more towards nature, letting your offspring fly, you know what I'm saying, so to speak, and letting them live and realize that there are consequences and benefits based on your actions. So, what if Kanye's mom never died? Maybe he would be better mentally. He is extremely successful, but he clearly has some demons, for sure. Zabuza with Demon Mist Mode versus Part 1 Kabuto. I lean towards Zabuza. I lean towards him, especially with his Demon Mist Mode. Probably Zabuza. Kabuto is inferior to Kakashi, so. I know Kabuto was said to be Kakashi level. I think, yeah, Kakashi would beat him. It's even implied when him and Kabuto encountering each other in the leaf. It's implied that Kakashi would win. So, what if Itachi lived? it depends the exact situation. So if it's the case that he didn't die in his battle against Sasuke, then I wonder how that would go. I don't think Itachi would give up the act that he was putting on, right? Being the evil, malevolent piece of shit that Sasuke thought he was. I think he would keep that up. So I don't think anything would change in that fashion. Now, if you're suggesting what if Itachi didn't have the path that he had, well, Sasuke would be a much different character. Probably much more well-hearted, light-hearted. So, depends. Alright, folks. And by the way, folks, if you're not on my Discord, feel free to join. You can watch stuff. There's debates that take place, all kinds of shit take place there, so. Any questions here? Feel free to ask any questions, folks. How come some girls never move on from trauma? That's a good question. I think, well, I'm not a female, but I'll just say I think women, when they go through traumatic stuff, I would probably say have a tougher time dealing with it. Just from a rational standpoint, I think they just have a tougher time coping with it. They're more emotional, biologically speaking, so they probably feel it more. It's more apparent, probably more painful too. So, in comparison to men, at least, But men have tough times too sometimes. Alright, folks. By the way, folks, I talk sports as well. So NBA, UFC, boxing, NFL, if you have any questions about that as well. I'm well versed in that as well. Any IRL questions, any anime questions, feel free. Kakazu versus Orochimaru. Yeah. Kakazu, let's see. Kakazu definitely isn't, I wouldn't consider him Sonian level, so. Do you believe in the existence of sacred geometry and its overall ideology? I don't know if I'm familiar with sacred geometry and that ideology. Let me see what it entails real quick. Let's see. Okay, so it's a sacred geometry ascribes symbolic and sacred meanings to certain geometric shapes and certain geometric proportions. So basically, it seems to me that it means that shapes and certain designs have some sort of significance. I don't really look that too deep into that. I would say maybe seeing a commonality in trees and how things are built maybe implied to something of higher power. That's what I would think about it. I believe I asked this before, but did you ever watch the Kenobi series? Comment 86 channel a few times about it being terrible. This guy went closed. I saw about 3 episodes. I haven't finished that yet either. So it was alright so far. Solid 7, I'd say. Not horrible, not amazing. I do get some nostalgia that probably adds some points, but. Let's see here. Can the mystery gang solve the Kira case? Theoretically, maybe. I don't know the bounds of their intelligence, but they seem to solve a lot of shit. How much do I have to super chat right now for me to join? I'm probably gonna say that till Saturday so everyone can be ready for that. So, but if you do super chat, you'll get priority. So, episode 3, I'll be banging against the wall. I can see, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I agree to some extent, yeah. See any other questions here, folks? Thoughts on Baby Keem? I've only heard a few of his songs. I don't have much thoughts on him. He seems alright. He seems like an up-and-comer. Hopefully, let's see if he leaves a mark in the industry long-term or not. Jon Jones versus Izzy. Good one. Good question. I enjoy these UFC matchup questions, so feel free to ask, or boxing or whatever. So, Israel Adesanya is arguably the best striker in the entire UFC. However, Size matters. There's a reason why there's weight divisions, right? Size matters. When he fought Jan Blachowicz, you know, the former light heavyweight champ, he just didn't have the size to deal with Jan's power, apparently, and Jan's ground game. Once he was on the floor, he was basically just a doormat. Jan could do whatever he wants to him. Right? He could do whatever he wants to him. You can maul him, do whatever. That clearly illuminates Izzy's lack of strength and size. Jon Jones, right, has been shown out wrestling DC, who was an Olympic wrestler who out wrestled gigantic men, legendary heavyweights, and out wrestled the best heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic. And Jon Jones out wrestled him. So what would happen is, Jon, if he takes it to the ground, would end it quickly. It would be a long night for Izzy. A long night. I don't think he'd be able to defend Jon Jones' takedowns. So I would say Jon would probably maul him, to be honest. I watched a video on John Constantine. Heard of him. He's way stronger than I thought he was. I've seen from what I have seen of John Constantine, he has some pretty impressive feats. Have you read the Invincible comic? No, but I know it's goated, and I know a lot of people say it's a W comic, so I have to check that out. But yeah, Jon Jones, in my estimation, is the greatest of all time. The whole PED bullshit, there's an asterisk next to it because there are cases, right? And he's one of those cases where the PED amount was so minuscule that it's not even possibly digestible. You can't voluntarily digest that amount voluntarily. It's so minuscule that it is imperceivable. You can't even see it. That's how much whatever was, I think it's Turinabol, that's how much was in his system when he fought DC. It was non-performance enhancing because it was so minuscule. First of all, not digestible voluntarily, and it was non-performance enhancing. So could you really take that win away from Jon? No. He beat him. That was Jon beating him without any performance enhancing drugs. Now is Jon a fuck up? Hell yes. Jon Jones is a fuck up outside the octagon. He's a fucking dumbass. He lost his fiance. He probably sees his kids less. He fucking hit a pregnant woman. That's on him. But as far as fighting in the octagon, he's the best of all time. So, simple as that. Kendrick, generational talent. Cole, balance. Drake, most popular. Yeah, I think you can apply that to all of them. They're all, you know, the leader of the era. Have you watched Netflix Sandman? No, I have not. Not sure how I feel about the series. Story is good, but there's some SJW. Of course. That's what's going to happen with most new shows that are trying to be appealing to the woke culture. It's always going to happen. So, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. That's unfortunate. Yeah, it really is. By the way, folks, if you want me to react to the latest chapter of Naruto, I'll do it for $15. Just to let you know if you want me to do it now. If not, I'll do it another day. Is there any version of Iron Man that can beat the Darkest Night? Maybe God Killer Armor Iron Man. It's possible. He took down Celestials. And I believe they're multiversal. It's possible. Theoretically. But then again, the Dark Knight took down the creator, I believe, of the DC multiverse. That's fucking insane. So it's possible. I don't know. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible. Hey, do you think the Chinese discipline in terms of combat can be utilized in real life? I'd have to see exactly which discipline you mean. Most can, right? Most you can use. Kaguya versus Cell equals stats. Cell is much more intelligent, I'd say. I think Kaguya has a lot of hacks abilities. There's that. If they have equal stats, it would come down to intelligence and arsenal. I would lean towards Cell. But then he could be technically BFR'd by Kaguya. He's pretty dumb though. Actually, I might take that back. I might lean towards Kaguya because of the hacks. So. Warlock Rock Lee versus Sasuke that fought Itachi. I'd probably lean towards Sasuke. The one that fought Itachi. Probably Sasuke. Unless you want to really revere what Rock Lee did, and he's faster than 8 Gates guy because he threw a kunai and he got there before Gates guy, and he was able to fucking cut Madara in half. If you really revere those feats, then shit, probably Lee. I'm surprised you don't react to Chuck videos. I just haven't really looked into Chuck stuff. I'll probably try that out. I like comic book stuff, and I know he's pretty well read in the literature of comic books. So I probably will. It's a good idea. Chuck's pretty good at what he does too. What if Canelo beat Floyd in their fight? He'd be probably considered the greatest of all time at this point. If he beat Floyd that night. And obviously he got schooled, but if he did beat Floyd, Floyd would no longer be the cash cow. Right? It would have been Canelo at that point. And by now he would have been considered an all-time great. So, yeah, that's what would happen. Floyd's legacy would be tarnished. Floyd schooled Canelo. You know, a lot of people use the excuse he was young. He had 40-plus professional fights. That's not an excuse. Floyd was 36 years old. Canelo was 23, 24. We see world champs at that age. It's not an excuse. Do you ever believe they'll make another Bleach game for consoles? I think if this new Bleach anime is well received, I think there will be sufficient reason for a new Bleach game, yeah. But if it does shitty, no one watches it, I think they won't be incentivized to make a game. But I think it's going to do very well, to be honest. Do you believe they'll ever make another? Okay, I just read that. What if Madara had won the 4th war? Great question. If he won the 4th war, let's say for the sake of this discussion, Black Setsu doesn't betray him. He would simply just casually roam the earth. Something of a god. That's what he would become. Roaming the earth. Maybe he'd have to deal with Tornari coming down. Maybe he'd fucking fight fucking Momoshiki and fucking Kinshiki. Maybe that would happen. The Otsutsuki would eventually come down. And I wonder how that would go. The Madara might protect them. Maybe he holds some sort of value, and as far as the world's concerned, theoretically, maybe he could absorb chakra from people in the, Infinite Tsukuyomi. Maybe he gets strong enough to deal with an Otsutsuki. So it'd be boring. He'd be bored just floating around. So let's see here. Next death battle you want to react to? Maybe Goku versus Superman. Seems interesting. Sorry if I'm lagging, folks. The fucking internet's acting up. Should be good. Alright, continuing on. Bleach needs a 2D fighting game. I agree. I don't know how to watch if it's the only legally on Disney, especially since Disney One anime isn't available unless you're in Japan. Good point. I don't see that. I don't see the point of that move. I don't understand that. Hokage Kakashi versus Sekitachi. If we consider the novels canonical, then Kakashi would stomp him, especially Sekitachi. If we don't consider the novels canonical, it'd be an interesting discussion. Now, I would argue from a rational standpoint, if the novels aren't canonical, he would probably have inferior reaction times now that he doesn't have a Sharingan. Right? He doesn't have MS. He doesn't have the base Sharingan. He'd probably have, you could argue, more AP because he has less chakra being used up by the dojutsu. I think he'd have a chance against Itachi. Now, you have to compare Itachi to CS2 Sasuke. I think Kakashi would have similar to success to maybe Sasuke. Could he beat Itachi? Possibly. From the top of my head, that would be my answer. It's a possibility. Please react to Toph versus Gaara. That's an interesting one as well, yeah. Would either Tyson or Ali beat Mayweather in Round 1, all in prime states? The problem with that is that they're 10,000 times bigger than Floyd, so they would beat him. One punch and he'd break his arms or break his brittle hands. He's not big enough to deal with those guys. Now, if they were theoretically the same size, Floyd would beat either one. If they were theoretically the same size, Floyd would beat either one. But rationally, he would lose. They're too big. Tyson would rip his body to shreds, rip him apart, and get knocked out. Ali, way too big. Way too big. There's weight classes for a reason, he'd get fucked up. Alright. Feel free to ask any other questions, folks. Apologies for the lag. I'm trying to fix it. For some reason it's being very slow. Alright, let's continue on. See what you guys have asked. Give me 1 second. See if this helps the fucking internet real quick. Let's see here. If you're asking any questions, folks, give me 1 second. Alright, I think we should be good now. Let's see. Alright. Let's see here. How would Naruto characters do as boxers without their powers? I mean, as boxers? I mean, they use all limbs. It'd be difficult. Some of the best taijutsu use. Neji would fucking be a world champion. I mean, with the Byakugan in his hands, it'd be a problem. Who else has really good hands? Someone like Minato with his speed would be a problem as well. Now, the specialists, medical users as well, would be useless. Sakura, she'd have power, but she throws wild shots, you know, for breaking down her technique, boxing wise. She'd be slow, she'd get knocked out. Tsunade as well. Yeah, so someone like Neji would do very well. Someone with a Sharingan would do very well. Probably someone like Sasuke or Madara, for sure. So, let's see here. Without their powers, I mean. Neji probably be the world champion, to be honest. Or Rock Lee, world champion, for sure. Was it ever stated that Obito was doing what Obito was doing in a 17-year gap after he fled from the Hidden Leaf? I mean, besides the Akatsuki. No, I don't believe so. Obito left the Leaf, right? He saw Rin die in front of his eyes. He awakened his MS. Man, he was just probably setting things up for Madara's plan, I'm assuming. Or he's probably just getting things in order. Scouting people. Probably seeing who's powerful enough to join the Akatsuki, stuff like that. That's what I would assume. Alright. What if Vegeta turned Super Saiyan first on Namek? How would the story change? That would greatly change the story and the trajectory. That would kind of imply that Vegeta would be the top dog and not Goku. That's what that would imply. So everything would change. Kind of flip for Vegeta and Goku. It would be Goku trying to catch up to Vegeta. Right? That's what would happen. If you just got in here, folks, hit the like button. Let's try to get to 20 plus likes on this one, possibly 30. Gets us up in the algorithm. You know, I appreciate all the support. Sakura from Boruto versus Minato Sage Mode. I mean, Sakura blitzed someone with the war potential of Hokage Naruto. I mean, that shit's crazy. You can only assume that she'd be faster than Minato. Sarada would have a good shot. I think Minato's intelligence would be a problem, though. So. 8th Gate guy versus Shin Uchiha. Shin is such a pain in the ass to power scale. He did tag a rusty Naruto and Sasuke. Gave him some trouble, I guess you could say. So probably Shin. I mean, there's just a huge power cliff there. You know, it's a huge power cliff. I'm going to pull a SpongeBob and head out. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. All right, here. See here, folks. What if Fugaku became the 4th Hokage instead? I think the Uchiha segregation would have ended. Danzo probably would have been put behind bars. And Itachi would still be in the village. A lot would change. Naruto would grow up with his father. Actually, no, that was already... Never mind. Minato died before that. Naruto we grow up in a place where there's less segregation. We don't have to deal with Sasuke being so cold. A lot of things would change. A lot of things would change. Sasuke would be a whole different person. Yeah. 10,000 Obitos versus Momoshiki. All 10 tells Jinchuriki. Momoshiki would probably still win. He absorbs their ninjutsu, shoots it back at him at an increased level, blows up the planet. Probably something like that. Is it bad for men to cry? I think in front of your woman it is. It shows vulnerability, it shows weakness, and they will inevitably be affected by it on a balance of probabilities. There might be the special woman out there that doesn't mind it, but most women will be like, what the fuck? This guy is a pussy. Now, if a family member died and you shed a tear, that's fine. But if you're crying over some other shit, like you lost your job or some shit, you got to fight, do not show vulnerability. It's a huge mistake. So in that situation, it is bad. You know. All right, folks. Let's see here. Give me a second here. The shit is being quite slow. I'm just gonna test if anything's taking away bandwidth. Give me a second here. Let's see here. If I can close some things. It's taking up a bunch here. Nothing really I can close. All right. Hopefully it stops lagging. All right. Do you think the alter ego is as it right now as an omen sign form, or is it just, or that just it? Asking if it's an omen sign form. I think it differentiates. It's more of like a god of destruction type thing, compared to Goku's, which is more an angel technique. So I think there's some different variables involved in each one. At least from a rational standpoint. What is your purpose? Purpose is just to keep evolving. You know, I think that should be every man's purpose. It's keep evolving, improving, bringing something to the table for the world to take in, right? Whatever that is. You're a painter, a fucking scientist, whatever. Your purpose should be to give back to society, and that way you become successful. You know. My purpose is just to do that. Have you ever read a Naruto fanfic? I don't think so. Like in its entirety now. I've never took the time to do that. Alright, folks. Any other questions here? Feel free to ask any questions, folks. Any questions at all, folks, no matter the controversy. The Naruto What If community on YouTube kind of does the job of reading for you. It's a good point. I agree. Definitely does. Same with Dragon Ball. Yep. I'll admit, yeah, most of the mainstream anime, that's the case, for sure. What would you do next with MCU Spider-Man? The tough thing with the current Spider-Man that is hard is it's hard for him to take the mantle of Iron Man being like the leader of the next mainstream superhero team. He seems too childish. Like, he looks too childlike. You know, Tom Holland's a small dude. He doesn't seem like a leader. He seems like a sidekick, to be honest. At least aesthetically speaking. Maybe if Tom got buff as hell, or can't get taller, he's a grown man. So I just think that's the problem. what I would do in an ideal world would be making the leader of the new Avengers, right? That's going to be hard to do, though. And I would also argue that, to be honest, I feel like the MCU has kind of depleted in quality of recently with their last few films. You know, the new Doctor Strange movie wasn't amazing. The new Thor movie, a lot of political correctness bullshit in that one. It's like, I don't know. Let's see. Do you think Sasuke knows how to use Izanagi? Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure about that. I'm pretty sure he does. At this point, he has decades of experience, so he's seen his brother use it. He's seen Danzo use it. Yeah, for sure. All right, folks. Any other questions here? Nah, just let it be on his own for a while. They tease Venom after No Way Home. Yeah, he needs more character development before he's taken seriously as like a leader of the Avengers. He's not there yet, so definitely. What would you bring back Andrew Garfield or Tobey for another Spider-Man film? Why not? You know, why not? You'd have to kind of make a storyline make sense for that to happen. The last one did, right? They had Dr. Octavius come back, Green Goblin come back, you know, Garfield's villains come back. It made sense. It was fun. A lot of nostalgia. Maybe if there's a multiversal threat, they could come back. Maybe Kang the Conqueror seems to be the next main villain to come. And Kang the Conqueror can control time, if I'm not mistaken. He can manipulate time and shit like that. So it's a perfect villain for multiversal action, you know. Favorite DC and Marvel hero. Let's see. Favorite DC Batman, no question. Marvel. It's a good one. There's a lot of good ones out there. Probably Wolverine. It's an alpha right there. Alpha mentality. Let's see here. They have plenty of storylines they can pull from that. Yeah, the good thing about comic books, it's, you know, these characters are composite characters. There's hundreds of storylines they could pick. Have you ever read a Doujinshi? No, I'm not familiar with that. What's the worst KK Genkai? You could argue the Sharingan because of the depletion that we've seen from Itachi, Kakashi, but then again, we see people like Obito spam it forever. The worst KK Genkai. Let's see here. Probably, it's a tough one. I'm trying to think of all the KK Genkais. And Kimimoro's, I wonder if Kimimoro's KK Genkai got him sick or not. I wonder if that's the reason. If it is, then that might be the worst. Seems ambiguous what was making him sick. If that's the culprit, then yeah, probably that one. Alright, folks. But going back, just to continue with the conversation, going back to with the whole Andrew Tate thing, I've went back and forth with many people on social media, debating many people on it. It's just a lot of appeal to emotion, you know, that I see. Now, if there was something in a hypothetical world, if there was someone that I liked that committed a crime and it was proven, then of course I wouldn't like that person anymore, right? But when you're just going out speculating and yelling this from the top of rooftops and claiming this bullshit, like him being a trafficker and shit like that, that's disingenuous. There's no proof of that. There is no proof of that. And rationally, it doesn't make sense. He's a multi-millionaire. He could go get a stripper from the strip club for spare. Why would he need to traffic people? It doesn't make any sense. So it's quite a shame, the amount of people that appeal to their emotion. It's quite possibly the most common logical fallacy in the entire world right now, is an appeal to emotion. And I've seen some smart people appeal to emotion. Some people that I consider to have good logic and good judgment. It's really a shame. That would be like me saying someone that I don't like is a pedophile. There's no proof of it, so why would I say it? I'm not going to say that, you know. It's crazy. It really is. I forgot what that would explain why Tsunade stepped down after the war as Hokage. I think there really is no like legitimate reason. I just think the passing of the mantle. Kakashi's a war hero. Tsunade's getting older. The war arc was a big event. Probably just passing of the torch. Kind of like Heroes in Minato. So. All right, folks. Any other questions, folks? Let's see here. Let's see. Any and all questions? Do you read One Piece? No, that's on my bucket list as well. I gotta finish Bleach up in its entirety and understand the power scaling aspects, the narrative, the narrative itself. I gotta gather all that and then I'll move on to the next. I don't know if it's gonna be One Piece, but yeah, it's on my bucket list though for sure. Sorry for the lag again, folks. It's quite annoying. Trying to find the culprit. Feel free to keep asking questions, folks. All right. What are you currently reading right now? I'm reading Bleach. Well, I'm watching Bleach, I guess you could say. I probably will read the manga as well to see the more subtle details there as well. I finished reading Attack on Titan and watching it. Been more involved in IRL stuff, a lot of comic book stuff as well. Been reading a lot of comics online mostly. It's expensive to buy them, physically. A lot of IRL stuff. Just always reading something. How far does Yamcha, I'm assuming you mean, make it in the Naruto verse? Well, I'd have to go back and see his feats. Been a while since I've even thought of Yamcha. Let's see. Yamcha feats. What does he have? Let's see here. Yamcha. What is his strongest feat here? Go to Versus Wiki. See what they say. Small building level. Okay, wait. It goes all the way up to planet level. His power grew enough that Dr. Gero in Android 19 had knowledge of his Goku's power. Oh yeah, they believed him to be Goku. Yeah. Probably was beyond that at that point. So I think he would probably have trouble once he gets to the upper tier of the Naruto verse. Once he gets to like 6 pass, he'd probably have trouble. If you presuppose that he levels off at planet level. Thanks for your time on the stream, bro. For sure. Thanks for coming in. Sorry for the lag again, folks. I'll have to get that fixed next time. It is quite the nuisance. Nappa versus Naruto verse. He probably loses to adult Naruto now. Probably. He probably loses to like Ishiki. Probably loses to Fuse Momo, Delta, Koji. Definitely the cyborgs. Like Ida and fucking Damon. Alive Hashirama versus Sasuke and Itachi, both EMS. Both EMS. It's kind of hard to gauge where Itachi would be with EMS. It had to be a theoretical. It depends on how you presuppose that. If you presuppose that he gets a huge amp, like Madara did, then they might beat Hashirama. But if you believe that, Itachi doesn't get that much stronger from it, right? They would probably lose to Hashirama. It all depends on how much stronger you believe Itachi would get from EMS. Right? There's no way to really quantify that. Sasuke was on Itachi's level without EMS when he first got EMS, when they fought Sage Mount Kabuto. They're somewhat relative. But if Itachi got EMS, he would definitely get stronger. So I'd probably lean towards Hashirama. All right, folks, any more questions here? Let's see here, folks. Any other questions? Let's see here. All right, folks, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. Are we anywhere close to the start of the Boruto Shippuden time skip? I think there's quite a way to go. We got to see it being implied that Kawaki's mastering his abilities, that Boruto's mastering his abilities, and I honestly think that once we get to that point, we're going to be at a point where we know for sure that Kawaki and Boruto are superior to Sasuke and Naruto. I have a feeling, something along those lines is going to have to happen. Something big is going to happen. I would say we're not super close to it. So I think there's still ways to go, from my estimation, I would say. Is God Fusion Goku actually beyond fiction, or are Goku fanboys delusional? God Fusion Goku actually beyond fiction. I think that's delusional. The only ones that are arguably beyond fiction are Xeno themselves, the Xenos. So. DMS Kakashi versus Hagoromo. Probably DMS Kakashi I'd lean towards. I'd probably lean towards DMS Kakashi. However, the time limit would be an issue. So if Hagoromo can avoid, being hit, which I don't think he can because Kaguya couldn't, then he would probably beat Kakashi. But I think Kakashi probably speed blitzes him and takes him out. So. Would chakra in other fiction like Hunter x Hunter? Would chakra be in another fictional? Not sure what you're asking. Would chakra work maybe in another fictional reality like Hunter x Hunter? I think that would be up to the authors, to be honest. If that's what you're asking. Yeah, it's kind of hard to determine that. Would it work? You can almost assume that universes aren't built equally. Most of the time, there's different properties from a physics standpoint. Physiologies are different. There's many variables that you have to take into account when talking about cross verse matchups and stuff of that nature. So power scaling is quite a good tool because it's more of an objective way to scale somebody, how powerful they are. At least when presupposing that their attacks can be quantified to a certain number that we can look at, right, based off pre-established laws in our own reality. So, but things like chi and chakra and stuff like that, ki, it's ambiguous how that would interact. No KCM, no Sage Mode, Minato versus Sekitachi and Kisame. I think he might lose to those two. Well, if it's Sekitachi, he might have a better chance. I think he'd have the speed advantage for sure. If Kisame can get off the water dome, he'd be at a disadvantage. His chakra's being eaten during the fight. So I'd say it depends on how fast he can take care of Sekitachi and Kisame. It really depends on that. I'll probably lean towards Itachi and Kisame because of Itachi's Genjutsu and Kisame's ability to eat chakra with Samehara, and a lot of the abilities that he can use eat chakra in ninjutsu. So it'd be a problem for Minato. Unless the speed gap is so vast, then he'll simply blitz them, if that's what you believe. Shisui versus Heavy Sasuke. Who you got winning? Heavy Sasuke. Shisui, I mean, in the anime, he was inferior to Danzo. He's inferior to Danzo. And he got blitzed by Danzo. And that was pre-Hashirama cells and pre-Sharingans, I believe. He wasn't even amped by Hashirama cells at that point, if I'm not mistaken. That was before the Uchiha clan massacre, so probably a Heavy Sasuke. In the manga, it might be different, because Shisui was sedated, or at least in one of the novels, he was sedated by someone of the Aburame clan. So that can imply a level of superiority. And maybe he's above Danzo and above most of the people in the Leaf. So maybe at that point he could be Heavy Sasuke. Hulk versus Wolverine. What would happen is, at first, Wolverine would hurt Hulk, right? He would keep hurting him, cutting him. Now, if he could theoretically cut off Hulk's head before Hulk gets so strong that he's impervious to damage, then he could win, maybe. Cuts off his head, slices it off, kicks it in the water or something. Maybe he could. I don't think that'd be easy. It wouldn't be easy at all. But if he could do that, he could win. If he can't do that, then Hulk would get too strong to the point where he would rip Wolverine apart. Eventually, he'd get to that level of strength. So, it depends how quick Wolverine acts. Because his claws will go through him at first. He'll get to a point where he's too strong for it. So, by the way, folks, I saw a few people come in. Hit the like button. Let's try to get this video to 20 plus likes. Let's try to get it to 30, really. Many likes as possible. Gets us up in the algorithm. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for all the support as well. All right, folks, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask here. Yeah, I was gonna say he was pre-poisoned before Danzo. Yeah, in the manga, the novels, yeah, he was. So that would change things. And he might be Heavy Sasuke, because that implies he's at another level, possibly. There's an argument for Danzo, which is that he was on the heels of Hiruzen, which is why he was considered to be for Hokage. But obviously, Hiruzen got the job because you're superior. But you can imply Danzo's up there in power as well, and you can use that to scale Shisui, especially if you're talking about where he gets pre-poisoned, right? So, A and Killer B versus Edo Itachi. It kind of goes similar to Naruto and Killer B versus Edo Itachi. Edo Itachi could simply, Edo Itachi is probably faster based off what we see. It's possible. It's possible. And they can't seal him either, so there's that. They can't seal him. They don't have any sealing jutsu to seal the guy. So he'd probably just take him out eventually. By the way, folks, if you want me to react to any videos, I do it for, if you super chat and ask for a video, I will react to it. Of course, let me know first so you can negotiate price. But I've done it a few times. A couple people have paid me to react to certain things. I'll do it for the right price. So just letting you know, throwing that out there. Who is your favorite DBZ character? Vegeta. I think he's better than Goku narratively. I think he's better, well written. He's more relatable. He goes through more trials mentally than Goku does, I'd say. You know, he represents what people should try to be and become. You know, Goku does too to a certain extent, but Vegeta's more vocal on that. So, Vegeta. Boruto Team 7 versus Naruto Team 7. If you're talking current, I mean, Boruto alone would solo them. Boruto alone would deal with them. Yeah, Team 7 for Boruto. Definitely currently, for sure. If we're talking beginning of Boruto, I might lean towards Naruto Team 7. But now, it's not even close. I mean, we're talking about a guy with a karma, 80% or beyond Otsutsuki. Guy's a monster. We got Mitsuki with perfect sage mode, and he impresses Orochimaru with his speed. We got Sarada, who is the daughter of Sasuke and Sakura. It's insane. Let's see here. Jiraya versus the second Hokage. It's a good question. What can we scale Jiraya? Empirically speaking, Jiraiya just has the better feats. Tobirama has the better feats. He's faster, has the better feats, has the hacks. I would lean towards Tobirama. Yeah. Base guy with nunchucks versus Final Valley Sasuke. Base guy. Even base guy is a problem. If he sticks to base, I might lean towards Guy, possibly. I might lean towards him. Alright, see any other questions here? Third Kazekage versus Deidara. Good question. The third Kazekage was slayed by Sasori, and Deidara says that Sasori is superior to him. I would say that's a good one. There's not really much on the third Kazekage. He's just stated to be the strongest Kazekage of all time. I think that's no longer the case with current Gaara, but at one point he was. I would lean towards Deidara, honestly. He dealt with CS2 Sasuke, nearly killed him, kept up with Onoki as an Edo. I would lean towards Deidara, to be honest. Alright. What other power skills do you recommend looking at besides the big ones like Seth, Chuck, Swag, and Six? That's a good question. There's a few that I've seen. A few good ones that I've seen. I'm trying to think. Power scalers. There's not very many that are like extremely logically sound in their arguments. Let's see. I honestly can't think of any on top of my head. Happy? I think that's his name. Happy? He's alright. I don't think he only posts shorts, I think, on YouTube, but he's alright. King Bullet's alright. He's not right on everything, but he's alright. Trying to think of some others. The guy that makes the Dragon Ball videos. He did a video with Seth recently. Geekdom. He's not bad. So yeah, those guys, a couple guys come to my head. Let's see here. Ginyu Force versus Pride Troopers. The Ginyu Force for sure. Six versus Swag Naruto debate wise. Six is a better debater than Swag. I would say it's probably Six would probably beat Swag. Probably. Do people still hate the Boruto series? Yes, they do. Because the other than I saw 3 episodes of Boruto, I immediately got bored and stopped. And I only watch it because Naruto Sasuke is there. Yeah, they gotta learn. They just gotta keep working on making Boruto and Kawaki more appealing to us emotionally. Once they can do that, they'll be in our good graces. At least more so than now. Hard to do. It's hard to outdo what they did with Naruto. It's gonna be hard. But yeah, people definitely still hate Boruto. So, Jobbers and Goons is pretty good. I don't think I'm familiar with that. I think I've heard of him, but yeah. Kakashi with the third gate released versus Tendo Pain. Third gate, which is a multiplier. Theoretically, it could be possible that gap in power closes, but it's quite vast, I have to say. The gap between Kakashi and the Tendo Pain that beat his ass is quite vast. He was being chivalrous with Kakashi, showing him honor and shit. He even gave him an honorable, a merciful death some way with just shooting a nail at his face. So it might not be enough. It theoretically could be, but it's quite the gap to be closed. So I would still lean towards Pain. They need to make the rest of the side characters appealing as well. Sorry, Mitsuki fell off the face of the earth in terms of discussions or hype. I agree. They have. They're in the back. They're in the back 9 now. They gotta make them relevant somehow. Definitely soon. Or it's gonna be harder. The longer they take, the deeper the hole they dig. So. Let's see other questions here, folks. See here. Favorite Ninja Turtle? Probably Michelangelo. I think that's his name. I'm not too well familiar, but I think he was my favorite. Alright, folks. See what other questions you folks have here. I'll try to have this internet issue resolved next time. I don't know why it lags so much this time. It's very strange. So apologies for that. See any other questions here, folks? Alright, folks, I think about 10 to 15 more minutes and I shall depart. Unless someone donates, I'll stay longer. So ask your last questions here. It's been a good variation of questions today, though. It's a good amount of different topics, keeping the conversation flowing. It's good stuff. Rock Lee with 100 healing jutsu versus Kisame with the Renegon. Jesus, with the 100 healing jutsu. theoretically, you could claim that he could stay in the 6th gate for quite some time. And Kisame with the Renegon, he has the chakra levels for it, that's for sure. I might lean towards Kisame on that one. He'll use Chubako Tensei's GG's. Nothing Rock Lee can do against that. Any games you're looking forward to playing? Definitely. Gotham Knights, new God of War is coming out soon. What other games are coming soon? The Last of Us PS5 remake. I'm hearing they're going to add some new mechanics to the game and some new even scenes. There's a few good games coming out soon. Definitely looking forward to them. Jobbers and Goose is making 100 people who can beat Goku, and I'm sure there's 100, and there's so many comic books, animes out there. I'm sure, not surprised. Sage Mode Naruto versus Full Power Kisame. Full Power Kisame was capable of taking out Killer Bee. Version 2 Killer Bee cloak with the version 2 cloak. Now, the only question is, if he eats the nature energy chakra, will he turn into a toad? If Samehada eats that shit, will Samehada be able to absorb that? Or will it turn into a toad? I don't know. It's very strange. If that's the case, Sage Mode Naruto might be able to win that way. But Kisame is very powerful. Very powerful. So I would lean towards maybe Kisame, and then you gotta take into consideration the speed. I think Sage Mode Naruto actually would have greater speed, definitely reaction times. How he would take out Kisame would be difficult because he heals. He can take quite the big blow, still keep going. At this point, if we're talking Pain Arc Sage Mode Naruto, he might not even have the ability to hurt the guy. Maybe with a Russian Shuriken, maybe he'll slice him up. I lean towards Kisame because of the durability and the hacks. I lean towards him. You're the best Prowess killer out there. Appreciate it, brother. Definitely trying to establish, legacy for sure. It's gotta be well written literature, so you can extrapolate the right pieces of information to come up with a great claim. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Which of these movies you would rather watch? Wonder Woman 2017 or Captain Marvel? God damn. Probably Captain Wonder Woman, to be honest. Captain Marvel was ass, man. It's fucking ass. So, half-brained accelerator. Can easily beat Goku from the top of my head. Yeah. Let's see here. Alright, folks, any more questions here? Son Goku 4-tailed beast versus Son Goku Budokai Tenkei tournament. So those are some versions I'm admittedly not too familiar with. Let's go ahead and see this. So Goku. Let's see what this version of Goku has done. Alright, so the Tailed Beast, right, versus Budokai Goku. So if I look at his power level, I don't remember off the top of my head what it was at that point in his career. Then I could probably give it a good claim. Let's see. Let's see here. Goku's 260 there. The Tail Beast might have a chance there because Goku's power level was quite low by the 23rd Budokai, so probably the Tail Beast. And 1v1 Kakazu or Diva Path with Pain. The Diva Path probably wins. I mean, he fucking was soloed Kakashi and Choji and his dad like they were fodder. While Kakazu had a hard time in a Taijutsu exchange. So definitely the Diva Path. Unless you take into consideration Kakazu's raw durability, then Kakazu wins and solos the whole verse. Let's see here. Alright, folks, a few more minutes, unless someone donates, and I shall stay longer. Let's see here. It's been a good variation of questions. And of course, hit the like button again, folks, if you just came in. Let's get this to 20 plus likes, maybe even 30. It gets us up in the algorithm, keeps the army growing, and will result in these being even more entertaining with more questions, more perspectives, etc. So hit the like button. It greatly helps. So, appreciate it. See here. Alright, folks, you have any other questions, feel free to ask here. Casey and Minato versus Edo Itachi in full power Kisame. Oh shit, I think Minato might lose that one. Edo Itachi has no, he's impervious to fatigue and death. So Minato would have to seal him. I mean, he is proficient in Funjutsu, so he could, but he's dealing with both Kisame and Itachi. And Itachi's speed is comparable to Casey and Naruto to some extent. So I might lean towards Kisame and Itachi there. See. If you were forced, which of these would you rather do? Fair warning, none of these choices are good. Would you like to play Sonic 06 video game? That's awful. Or would you like to watch Dragon Ball Evolution? Oh, that shit is fucking ass. Probably the Sonic game. Dragon Ball Evolution was fucking ass. It was the most pathetic piece of shit I've ever seen in my life. Awful. This is fucking trash. Oh, it's terrible. I mean, Sonic's pretty fucking bad too. That 06 game was fucking bad. But probably Sonic. It's more bearable. I mean, yeah, that Dragon Ball was fucking terrible. Fucking terrible. So. I'm about to get 240% of Batman Arkham. Yeah, I played those Arkham games many times as well. They're goated. They are goated. Alright, folks. See your final questions here. From One Punch Man versus the androids from Dragon Ball. I'm not familiar with One Punch Man too much, but androids are already at a different level. I don't know if they're quite universal. Let's see here. I think the general consensus is that he's not as strong, though, as Saitama. I would lean towards the androids. Yeah. You get to you start getting to new levels there, for sure. You don't hit Universal to the Boo saga, though, right? With Boo and all that. That's some Universal scale stuff. If it's the case that One Punch Man is currently multi-galaxy, then it's possible that Genos could beat the androids. It's possible. Saitama would have a chance against the androids. Current Saitama. You might even beat them. So. Right, folks. I shall stay 5 more minutes, unless again someone super chats. So I'll stay longer. Appreciate all the donations that were given. Appreciate all the members that have joined, become a member. I have a private Discord I'm going to give to the members soon. If you want to be a part of that, and want to see exclusive members only content and shit like that, then join them. Become a member today. Current sites must lapse the Android note. Yeah, it's probably likely. Yeah, I agree. Sage mode Edo Minato versus base Hashirama alive. I mean, with the Edo thing, I don't know if Hashirama has anything to seal him with. So that would be a problem. But Sage mode Edo Minato is definitely not, as far as most traits besides speed, is not on the level of Hashirama. So even base. So I would lean towards base Hashirama. If you could somehow incapacitate him, right, then probably Hashirama. If you can't, then Minato would eventually overwhelm him. It might take a while because Hashirama's reserves, but Edos are impervious to fatigue, they're impervious to exhaustion, and impervious to death. So, yeah. Next death battle video, I need to see. Maybe Superman versus Goku. It's going to be next week, though, for sure. And members only video, too, will be posted today on some controversial stuff, of course. I think Genos is multi-gun. Yeah, I'm not familiar with One Punch Man like that. I just know that he's like apprentice or something from Saitama, so I don't know. I need to get more well-read in the literature. Let's see here. You know what, folks? Since it's lagging so much, I might just do this. Tell me if this is better, so you don't see me freezing every 5 seconds. It looks kind of tacky when it's that slow, so. I think that's what I'll do if it freezes like that during streams. I'll just put on the images here. As long as the audio is good. Now, if the audio is like lagging too, let me know that too. So. All right. See any questions here? Are you watching the KSI boxing event? Yeah, I probably will watch it. Not that I'm a fan of their skill or anything, but I like KSI as a content creator. Obviously, his subpar boxing skills I don't care for, but you know, I'm a junkie for entertainment, so yes, I will. Jake Paul is the best YouTuber boxer by far. It's not even close. He'd probably fuck up KSI, to be honest. So, knock him out. All right, folks. A few more questions here. See here. Yeah, this whole YouTube boxing thing, I will admit, has brought back eyes to the sport of boxing. You can't deny that. You know, there's eyes on the sport of boxing now. And if anything, it probably had YouTube fans transition into boxing. You know, it brought a lot of eyeballs. So Jake Paul and Logan being the pioneers of that, that's a big deal. You gotta give them credit for what credit's due, you know? So, that's a fact. few more questions here, folks, that you guys have. Feel free to ask any and all questions. By the way, if you're an anime fan, I would recommend trying to get into combat sports. You know, it is a very interesting world. You know, and it's similar to power scaling. You power scale these fighters based off their feats, based off their skills. It's very. There's a lot of parallels between anime power scaling and being a fight fan. So I'll tell you that. Have you ever watched or listened to the Trash Taste podcast? I think I might have heard of it. I don't think I've ever watched it though. EMS Sasuke with Sage Mode that fought Obito 8 Tails. Okay, versus Jonin Minato with and without Sage Mode. EMS Sasuke with Sage Mode that fought 8 Tails Obito. That fought Obito 8 Tails. Do you mean 10 Tails? So you're saying if EMS Sasuke had Sage Mode? I'm assuming you mean the same kind of Sage Mode he had when Jugo gave him his power to help him deal with Jubito. Versus Jonin Minato with and without Sage Mode. I think at this point EMS Sasuke has surpassed that. He's keeping up with KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto, so yeah, he probably beats Jonin Minato with or without Sage Mode. So, hey Jay, can we make a video sometime? To be honest, it probably costs. So if you really are serious about that, you could hit me up on Discord. Obviously, I don't, friends, I'll do that, but if it's a random request, then it's different. I enjoy videos, especially with thoughts. I appreciate it, yeah. And I will be reacting to the newest Boruto chapter this week sometime, probably on stream Saturday, most likely, when I do the call-in. So I'll probably react to the new Boruto chapter and then do the call-in. That's the plan for Saturday. Any more questions here? I know I said 5 minutes like 5 minutes ago, folks, but for real now, 5 more minutes and I shall depart. Unless you guys, again, super chat. And I shall stay longer. Let's see, who would win between these two characters? Kid Goku. Who would win between these characters? Kid Goku from Dragon Ball or Part 1 Naruto with One-Tail Kyuubi mode? I think Naruto might be Kid Goku from Dragon Ball. If it's like very, very early Kid Goku from the very commencement of Dragon Ball, where he can barely like knock over a car with a ki blast, then probably Naruto. Yeah. I think at that point, yeah. Or unless you take what he did, that gag moment as hyper literally, then he transcends reality and he solos the entire Naruto verse. So yeah. Have you watched the new DBS movie? If so, any thoughts? I haven't, but I basically know what happens. I think the Piccolo wank was far-fetched. I think the Goku wank was, not the Goku, excuse me, the Gohan wank was a little much. And it seemed like a fan service to me. That's even without watching it, but just from my thoughts and what I know of the movie, it's, yeah. All right, folks, a couple more minutes, for real this time. Any final thoughts, any final questions, any and all? Thinking again as always, bro. Yeah, for sure. And members only video will be up by tonight, for sure. Be up by tonight, be up, be done. Thanks to all the members, by the way. Sean and all the other members that have been members. You get to see exclusive content, stuff like that. Private Discord made. Yeah. Again, these internet problems I'll try to fix in time. We'll adjust. Any more questions, folks, before I depart? What character is really overrated in your opinion? We're talking about Naruto. Let's see here. Some overrated characters. I think Tobirama is somewhat overrated. Yes, he is formidable. He's a creator of some of the most useful jutsu in the Naruto-verse, but yes, he tagged Gogeta with tailed paper bombs. That was a Gogeta who was gradually becoming more and more mentally nerfed as time went on due to Naruto instilling doubt in his conviction. So there's that. So I would say Tobirama is overrated. Sometimes underrated, I'll admit that as well. So he's in both sides of the spectrum. Someone else who's probably overrated. Let's see here. Haku, because of the whole light speed statement. Overrated. Again, there's moments. I don't think all statements should be taken hyper literally. You should look at the storyline itself from a rational standpoint and then conclude, okay, is this most likely a hyperbole or is this supposed to be taken hyper literally? Like, can Tamari blow away the universe or the world or whatever the fuck it means? No, she can't, right? But it's stated in a canonical piece of literature. It doesn't mean that she's that level. That's a hyperbole, right? So, yeah. It's kind of disingenuous to use these hyperbolic statements if the narrative itself doesn't imply it, right, from our own eye. So yeah, Tobirama. Who else? Who else is overrated sometimes? Maybe some versions of Sasuke, like heavy Sasuke. Some people think he'd beat MS Sasuke. I don't think so. That's another one. All right, folks. 2 more questions. See here, folks. If you have any last thoughts or questions, feel free to leave them before I depart. And I'll give my final announcements and shit before I wrap it up. Have a good night. Thanks, Akrima, for coming in. Appreciate the support. Appreciate it. Are you going to read One Punch Man? Eventually, yes, I will. I know it's a very revered anime, one of the mainstream animes in the anime fandom, so most definitely. In time. I gotta finish Bleach up. I'm thinking about starting Jujutsu Kaisen after that. I'm really interested in Gojo. So, alright, Austin, thanks for coming in. And alright, folks, I think if that's all questions, I should wrap it up here. Some final announcements. I might start streaming Mondays now due to changes in schedule, as the train keeps rolling either way. So Mondays will probably be streams, and then I'll probably be posting today, Wednesdays. So that's probably the way it's going to be starting next week. There will be a call-in show Saturday, most likely. I'm trying to get a co-host with me for that to get shit organized, to have call-ins. Super chats will get prioritized, of course. It's going to be question-based for now. It's experimental. We'll see how that goes. I'm not going to have any long-form debates on live streams either, so don't expect that. Might have some short conversations, but I'm not gonna have like hour debates with each caller because that'd be fucking crazy. So there's basically just questions or comments, whatever. Even if you talk shit, that's fine, but there will be smoke if you talk shit. You will get all the smoke, so just be warned if you want to talk shit. We will retaliate. But yeah, so that will be Saturday. And yeah, folks, I think that is all. Thanks for coming in. Again, hit the like button. Let's get this to 20 plus likes, maybe even 30. Get this up in the algorithm. I'm gonna keep saying this for the next few streams. Think about becoming a member. You know, you get special badges. I'll probably make those members mods, to be honest, in the streams. You get members only exclusive content. I'm planning on reacting to debates. I'm not posting on the main channel, but on the members only. So if you want to see those, me react to some debates, then become a member. And yeah, folks, I think that is all. And of course, hit the sub button if you're new, if you're watching this for the first time. That's going to wrap it up, folks. Thanks for coming in, and I'll see you on the flip side, folks. Peace.